So they are firing back with everything they have left, and the entire Middle East is burning because of it. In the 36 hours since Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed at his desk in Tehran by a joint American-Israeli airstrike, Iran has not gone quiet. Iran has not stood down. Iran has not sent a diplomat to Oman with a message about wanting peace. Iran has launched wave after wave after wave of ballistic missiles and drones at every country in the region that hosts an American military base, an American ally, or a target that its IRGC commanders calculated would send a message that the Islamic Republic is still here, still armed, and still willing to bleed the world if it has to bleed. 6 people are dead in Beit Shemesh, Israel, a quiet residential city near Jerusalem, where Iranian missiles punched through the Iron Dome and hit civilians on a Sunday morning. 3 American service members have been confirmed killed in Iranian retaliatory strikes on U.S. bases across the region. The Crown Plaza Hotel in Manama, Bahrain is on fire after an Iranian drone smashed through it. Dubai International Airport, in the world's busiest, is still closed. The port of Jebel Ali, the beating heart of Gulf commerce, is damaged from falling debris. Kuwait's stock exchange has suspended all trading until further notice. The IRGC has announced its 6th wave of retaliatory strikes, vowing that the air raid sirens in Israel and at American bases will not stop. And Trump, the man who authorized all of this, just told the country the operation could take 4 weeks or less. 4 weeks. In the most economically connected, most oil-dependent, most militarily saturated region on Earth. If you are new here and you want to stay ahead of the single most consequential military and geopolitical story unfolding anywhere on this planet right now, hit that like button and subscribe immediately, because what is happening across the Middle East today is not winding down. It is entering its most dangerous and most unpredictable phase. The phase where a government with nothing left to lose decides how far it is willing to go to make the world feel its pain. Trust me, every single layer of this story matters more than almost anything you will read or watch today. Let me take you through exactly what has happened since Khamenei was confirmed dead, exactly what Iran's retaliatory strikes have done to the region, and exactly where the 6 most consequential threads of this story are heading simultaneously. So, to understand why Iran's retaliatory campaign is more dangerous now than it was in the first hours of Operation Epic Fury, you have to understand the institutional reality that Khamenei's death has created inside the Islamic Republic. Khamenei was not just a religious figurehead. He was the central node of the entire Iranian state, the single person whose authority cut across the military, the judiciary, the parliament, the IRGC, and the intelligence services simultaneously. For 36 years, from 1989 until Saturday morning, every major decision in Iran, every nuclear negotiating position, every proxy force activation, every decision about when to retaliate and how hard, was made or ratified by one man. Now that man is gone. Killed at his desk in the early hours of Saturday morning at the compound in Tehran's Pasteur district known as Beit Rabari, Leadership House, his body recovered and identified by Israeli intelligence. Gone with him at a nearby compound were Iran's Army Chief of Staff General Abdolrahim Musavi, Defense Minister General Aziz Nasirzadeh, IRGC Commander Major General Mohammad Pakpour, and Senior Security Advisor Ali Khamenei. In a single day, the United States and Israel decapitated the military and political leadership of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And what has emerged from beneath that decapitation is not collapse. It is a 3-member transitional governing council composed of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, Judiciary Chief Gholam Hossein Mohseniejeh, and Ayatollah Alireza Arafi of the Guardian Council, that has formally announced it has begun its work, that it will govern Iran through the succession process, and that the Islamic Republic will not surrender. Pezeshkian, in his first video address since the strikes began, called on pro-establishment supporters to gather at mosques and major city streets despite the war. IRGC Commander Ali Akbar Ahmadian vowed that the body will continue its work despite the killing of its top members, and the missile launches continued, wave after wave after wave. But here is where things get critically important to understand about the nature of what those retaliatory waves are actually doing to real places and real people. We are now into the second full day of Iran's retaliatory campaign, and the picture emerging from every city it has targeted tells a story of a conflict that has expanded far beyond the parameters of any previous exchange between these parties. Let us go through what is confirmed, city by city, because the breadth of the destruction is the most important fact of the last 24 hours. In Beit Shemesh, Israel, a city of over 100,000 people located in the Judean foothills between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, an Iranian ballistic missile struck a residential area on Sunday, killing 8 people, injuring approximately 20 others, and leaving the Israeli Emergency Services Medical Agency Magen David Adom confirming 2 in serious condition and 3 in moderate condition among the hospitalized. This was not a strike on a military base. This was not a strike on an air defense installation. This was a residential neighborhood. Beit Shemesh is a city known for its large religious Jewish community, families, children, old people. Israeli President Isaac Herzog was photographed at the strike site. Netanyahu acknowledged publicly that Iran's retaliatory strikes were bringing painful days to Israel. The Iron Dome, which has protected Israeli cities from thousands of rockets and missiles since it was first deployed, has intercepted the overwhelming majority of Iranian projectiles. But as the June 2025 confrontation demonstrated, and as this weekend has confirmed again, no missile defense system in the world is 100% effective when the volume of incoming fire is high enough. Iran has reportedly fired approximately 150 ballistic missiles toward Israel in total, according to Israeli media. Most were intercepted, some were not, and the ones that were not killed people in Beit Shemesh. Now, before we go any further, let us be completely real for a second about what the scope of Iran's 6th wave of retaliatory strikes tells you about its strategic posture right now. The IRGC statement that accompanied the 6th wave announcement was explicit and precise in its language. It said, "The armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran will not allow the air raid sirens in the occupied territories and American bases to stop, and will continue to deliver repeated and regret-making strikes as a different and very hard step of revenge." That language, regret-making strikes, is significant. The IRGC is not claiming that its retaliatory campaign will destroy the American-Israeli military operation. It is claiming that its purpose is to make the human and economic cost of continuing that operation so high that the populations of the United States, Israel, and the Gulf states ultimately force their governments to stop. That is a strategy of attrition, not victory. And it is a strategy that is entirely consistent with the military reality Iran faces. A military whose supreme commander is dead, whose top generals are dead, whose air defense systems are being systematically degraded, and whose nuclear and missile infrastructure is being destroyed in waves of strikes that the United States has described as the most lethal, most complex, and most precision aerial operation in history. Iran cannot win a conventional military confrontation with the combined force of the United States and Israel. What it can do, what it is doing right now, is make the confrontation cost enough that the political will to continue it is tested. Now back to the matter at hand. Reports from across the Gulf confirm the scale and breadth of Iran's Sunday retaliatory campaign with a specificity that the first-day chaos obscured. In the UAE, the Ministry of Defense reported that Iran had fired 165 ballistic missiles, 2 cruise missiles, and 541 drones at Emirati territory. It confirmed that 132 ballistic missiles were destroyed and 5 fell into the sea. Of the 209 drones detected, 194 were intercepted and 14 fell into the sea. 21 drones hit civilian targets. 3 people were killed, migrant workers from Pakistan, Nepal, and Bangladesh. The Fairmont The Palm Hotel in Dubai was struck. The port of Jebel Ali, through which an extraordinary proportion of the Gulf's commercial traffic flows, was damaged by debris. International airports in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Kuwait were all struck by Iranian munitions, leading airlines to suspend flights across the Middle East with flight maps showing airspace over Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Israel, and Bahrain virtually empty. In Bahrain, an Iranian drone smashed into the Crown Plaza Hotel in Manama, causing a fire that required civil defense intervention. The U.S. Embassy in Bahrain announced closure on Sunday, canceling all consular appointments until further notice. In Qatar, 66 missiles were fired at the country's territory, including at Al Udeid Air Base, the largest American military installation in the region. In Kuwait, Iranian missiles killed 1 person and injured 32. In Jordan, 49 drones and ballistic missiles were intercepted. In Saudi Arabia, Riyadh and the eastern region were targeted in attacks that were repelled. This sent shockwaves through every financial institution and government on the planet because it crystallized one reality above all others. Iran's retaliatory campaign is not discriminating between military targets and civilian infrastructure. And that distinction, or the absence of it, is what is reshaping the politics of this conflict in real time. Now, this is not the first time we have watched Iran respond to a military assault with strikes that hit civilian areas in allied countries. The pattern from the first wave of retaliation, which began within 2 hours of Operation Epic Fury's opening strikes on Saturday, was already showing that Iran's targeting approach in this confrontation was fundamentally different from its calibrated, telegraphed response to Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. That time, Iran notified regional partners in advance, allowing air defenses to be ready and casualties to be minimized. This time, as Time magazine confirmed in its reporting, Iran's ballistic missiles and drones appeared to strike not just U.S. bases but civilian areas of its Gulf allies in ways that made no attempt at the strategic restraint that had defined its June 2025 response. A geopolitics analyst quoted by CNBC put it plainly, "If the regime feels threatened, it will lash out harder than it would if it thought it could ride out the attacks." The killing of Khamenei is not a development that the surviving leadership of the Islamic Republic can interpret as survivable through restraint. It is a development that has convinced the remaining IRGC commanders and the Transitional Governing Council that the objective of the American-Israeli operation is not to negotiate, it is to end the Islamic Republic itself. And when an institution believes it is fighting for its own existence, its calculus about collateral damage, about international law, about civilian casualties in allied countries, changes completely. It's honestly hard to believe that the same region that was having indirect nuclear talks in Geneva just 1 week ago is now watching Iranian missiles fall on residential neighborhoods in Beit Shemesh and hotel lobbies in Manama on a Sunday morning. The speed of this escalation is unlike anything the modern Middle East has experienced. Here is where it gets even more significant, because 3 specific developments on Sunday have altered the political landscape of this conflict in ways that go beyond the military picture. The first is the confirmation of 3 American service members killed in Iranian retaliatory strikes. Trump himself acknowledged in his communication about the operation that courageous American heroes may be lost. That formulation, anticipating rather than denying casualties, was a political preparation for this moment. But the confirmation of actual American deaths in combat changes the domestic political equation in ways that the abstract scale of the operation had not yet fully engaged. When American families receive casualty notifications, when American flags are draped over American coffins, the war powers debate in Congress moves from constitutional abstraction to lived consequence. Senator Tim Kaine appeared on Fox News Sunday and said it directly, "This is an illegal war." His bipartisan war powers resolution is moving toward a floor vote this week. The political pressure behind that vote, fueled now by American casualties, by economic disruption, by the moral weight of 108 girls killed at a school in Manab, is building with a momentum that no amount of White House messaging about the most lethal and precision operation in history can fully contain. The second development is Pope Leo XIV's public appeal from St. Peter's Square in Vatican City. The first American-born pope in the history of the Catholic Church stood before a crowd of faithful on Sunday and said, "Faced with the possibility of a tragedy of enormous proportions, I appeal to the parties involved to assume the moral responsibility to stop the spiral of violence before it becomes an irreparable chasm." When the leader of the world's largest Christian denomination, himself an American, speaking with the moral authority of the Vatican, publicly appeals for a halt to an operation authorized by an American president, the international political cost of continuing that operation rises in ways that polls and approval ratings cannot fully measure. The third development is what happened in Karachi, Pakistan. Hundreds of Shiite Muslims stormed the U.S. consulate in Pakistan's port city of Karachi on Sunday, smashing windows, with police using batons and tear gas to disperse the crowd. At least 9 people were killed and more than 50 wounded in the clashes. Pakistan, a nuclear-armed country of 220 million people with a significant Shia Muslim population, is now the site of violent anti-American protest triggered by the killing of Khamenei. When the ripple effects of a military operation reach a nuclear-armed state and produce lethal street violence at an American diplomatic facility, The geography of this conflict's consequences has expanded to a scope that no one in the initial operational planning appears to have fully modeled. This whole situation is now creating fractures in the international community that are going to define the post-conflict order for years, regardless of how or when this ends. Russia and China have issued condemning statements, but as CNBC's reporting confirmed, neither is in a position to give meaningful material support to Iran beyond rhetorical solidarity. Russia's military is overstretched by Ukraine. China's economic lifeline to Iran, it purchased more than 80% of Tehran's shipped oil in 2025, gives Beijing leverage but also exposure to the consequences of the Strait of Hormuz closure. 150 freight ships, including many oil tankers, are stalled behind the strait right now, according to Wikipedia's running update of the conflict, waiting to see whether the waterway will reopen. Every hour those ships sit waiting, the global supply chain absorbs another increment of economic damage. Maersk has rerouted all Trans-Suez and Hormuz sailings around the Cape of Good Hope, adding weeks and thousands of dollars per container to the cost of global trade. The EU called for maximum restraint and full respect for international humanitarian law. The EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs Kaja Kallas said, "The death of Ali Khamenei is a defining moment in Iran's history." She called it an opportunity for the Iranian people to shape their own future. That framing, the death of a supreme leader as an opportunity rather than a tragedy, represents the most explicit statement yet from a major Western institution that the political transformation of Iran is now not only a possibility, but a hoped-for outcome of this conflict. Whether it materializes, and whether it materializes through a popular uprising, a palace coup, a negotiated transition, or continued military degradation of the remaining government, is the question that no one can answer with confidence right now. Let us look at the succession dimension of this crisis carefully, because it is both the most important institutional question in Iran right now and the factor that will most directly determine when and how this conflict finds an ending. The Iranian constitution provides that when the supreme leader dies, the Assembly of Experts, an 88-member body of senior Islamic scholars, convenes to select a replacement. That process is supposed to happen within 8 days. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told Al Jazeera that the process should be complete within days. The Transitional Council of Pezeshkian, Mohseni Ejei, and Arafi is governing in the interim. The most discussed potential successors include Hassan Khomeini, the grandson of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, founder of the Islamic Republic, who on Sunday praised Khamenei but emphasized the importance of defending the Islamic Republic. A moderate cleric with significantly more public legitimacy than Khamenei had when he was chosen in 1989, Hassan Khomeini represents the continuity wing of the regime. Another possibility is Mojtaba Khamenei, the supreme leader's son, whose survival was confirmed by Israeli officials who said they had targeted but not killed him. A succession that produces a son of the previous supreme leader would represent a dynastic consolidation that might stabilize the regime internally, but would create its own legitimacy problems in a country that officially rejected hereditary rule in 1979. And the Assembly of Experts is trying to make this decision while Iranian cities are under active bombardment, while internet connectivity is cut to near zero, while the IRGC leadership is decimated, and while a transitional council has just announced its formation as the institutional bridge to whatever comes next. The complexity of executing a constitutional succession process under these conditions cannot be overstated. And the outcome of that process, whoever emerges as the next supreme leader or whatever institutional arrangement replaces the supreme leader model, will determine Iran's negotiating posture when Trump's indicated talks begin. Looking ahead, the conflict now has 4 concurrent tracks running simultaneously and feeding into each other in ways that make the outcome genuinely impossible to forecast with any confidence. The military track continues. Trump said the operation could take 4 weeks or less, and the Pentagon and IDF have both confirmed the campaign is ongoing. The diplomatic track is opening. Trump told The Atlantic that Iran wants to talk and he has agreed to talk, though he noted many of the people involved in previous talks have since been killed, which tells you how much of Iran's negotiating apparatus was eliminated in the opening strikes. The domestic American political track is accelerating. The War Powers resolution is moving toward a congressional vote. 3 American service members are dead, and the Pope has appealed for restraint from an American president during an unauthorized war. And the Iranian succession track is proceeding under fire. The Transitional Council is governing, the Assembly of Experts is beginning its process, and whoever emerges with authority in Tehran in the next days will either continue the retaliatory missile campaign Or take the conditional offer of talks that Iran's foreign minister indicated was available when the strikes stop. So here's the deal. Iran's retaliatory missile strikes are rocking the Middle East for a second consecutive day after the confirmation of Khamenei's death. 8 people are dead in Beit Shemesh, Israel. 3 American service members are confirmed killed. 21 Iranian drones hit civilian targets in the UAE, killing 3 migrant workers. The Crown Plaza Hotel in Bahrain is on fire. Kuwait's stock exchange is suspended. Dubai International Airport remains closed. The IRGC has announced its 6th retaliatory wave and vowed the air raid sirens will not stop. 150 ships are stalled at the entrance to a closed Strait of Hormuz. Hundreds stormed the U.S. consulate in Karachi, killing 9 in the ensuing clashes. Iran's Transitional Governing Council has announced it has begun its work and will not surrender. The Pope is calling from Rome for the spiral of violence to stop before it becomes an irreparable chasm. Trump says the operation will last 4 weeks or less, and somewhere in the ruins of the institutional order that governed Iran for 36 years, a succession process is trying to produce a new supreme leader, while the country is under active bombardment, and its internet is cut to 4% of normal capacity. The people paying the price of every missile fired and every wave of strikes authorized are not the generals who planned the operation or the politicians who celebrated it. They are the 6 people killed in Beit Shemesh on a Sunday morning. They are the 3 American service members who will not come home. They are the Pakistani, Nepali, and Bangladeshi migrant workers killed by drone debris in Dubai, people who came to the Gulf to build a better life and found themselves in the crossfire of a war between superpowers and a theocracy. History does not grade these moments by the precision of the munitions or the justifications in the press releases. It grades them by what they cost, who paid, and whether the outcome was worth the price. That verdict is not yet written, but the evidence being gathered for it is arriving, wave by wave, in the skies over Doha and Beit Shemesh and Manama and Tehran, every hour of every day until this ends. Keep your eyes on every development because this story is the defining moment of our time, and it is moving at a speed that no daily update can fully capture. Every confirmed casualty, every IRGC wave announcement, every word from the Transitional Governing Council in Tehran, every congressional vote on the War Powers Resolution, every ship that moves or doesn't move at the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, every signal from the Oman back channel about whether talks are actually starting, all of it matters right now in real time, and all of it is pointing toward a turning point whose shape no one can fully see yet. If you want to stay ahead of this conflict as it reaches its most critical hours, if you want the verified facts, the full context, and the honest analysis that cuts through the noise of the most dangerous and consequential moment in recent history, make sure you like this video right now and subscribe to this channel, because we are going to be here for every single development. We are not going anywhere. The stakes have never been higher in our lifetimes, and we are absolutely just getting started.